What is going on, HummusThunder family? It is your main man here, HummusThunder, bringing you guys a brand new video. In today's video, we will be taking a look at Modern Warfare after 1 month release. This is going to be reviewed based off my time playing the game and my impressions as to how good and how balanced the game has come from the beginning of launch. Now, there's a lot to talk about because the game has gone through a huge amount of changes. There's been a huge buff and nerf to certain guns, vehicles, maps. They've added so many different game modes. So in this video, we'll talk about not only the multiplayer section, but also the Spec Ops and campaign. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. Modern Warfare is a very mixed emotion kind of game. It's a mixed bag of good moments, very high moments, and very low moments. Modern Warfare does two things right, and that's giving you the feel of being like an operator, but also getting you to a point where you feel like you'll have a stroke because of how angry you get playing the game. Now, I'm not talking down on the game. This is going to be a very unbiased review. The game, like I said, has very good moments and very bad ones, starting with the bad ones. The game itself has a camping problem. It's not as bad as it was on launch because it's definitely been fixed since then. A lot of things have been changed, although there are still some things they could do to help minimize that. But for the time being, camping is sort of a problem in comparison to what it was last month. And it doesn't help that some of the maps are basically encouraging camping, but there is some maps that they added that are pretty non-friendly. I don't know the term that you want to call it, but for example, maps like Shoot House is all I play, and that's like the only map you can't camp or you'll get your ass handed to you. In this match playing on Gunrunner, you'll see a few campers, but that's really in part due to the maps, the perks that we have, and the minimap not displaying shots. Now the developers have already stated that they're not going to change the minimap where if you shoot it doesn't show red dots, because they want the game to be set up this way where the minimap acts the way it is right now. And in regards to dead sounds being a perk, I don't think that's ever going to happen. With that being said, the game still is enjoyable even with these little issues that are going on. Now, one thing that they did do that helped the flow of the game a bit more was nerf the 725 shotgun and also toned down the footsteps a little bit. Since the release of the game, the 725 was hailed the king, the best gun to use, and so was M4. But now with that nerf, the 725 is honestly one of the worst guns to use. On the Shoot House, it is pretty good if you point blank people, but it's definitely not like what it was like 2 weeks ago where you can map someone across the map. And the M4 also got a huge recoil nerf, so it made it not like a laser. It does add a bit more playability to the game, which I find really enjoyable. One other thing that I did notice is the skill-based matchmaking. That is something that I feel like should be removed, but developers have already stated that 90% of the community enjoys the skill-based matchmaking as in it benefits them, when in reality I don't really find that a factual statement. I think that's something that they're pulling out of their ass, excuse me, but I don't think skill-based matchmaking is something that should be included in the game, because it's something that you should be rewarded, because being good is something that should be rewarded for playing constantly, for practicing and just getting better. That's how all of us learn, and that's how it should be. You shouldn't be awarded because you're bad. You should be awarded because you're good. Nonetheless, I do find some games, if it's really sweaty, I'll just back out. That's just the way that you have to play this game. Don't let your pride get the best of you where you don't want to back out because of it. And on top of these little issues that I'm bringing up, there isn't a lot of bad things about the game, but one thing that I do have to bring up is the fact that this game feels like a beta. And don't get me wrong, it's not about like the gameplay mechanics, the engine. No, it's not that. It's the content that we have. And don't get me wrong, we're getting a season 1 pass coming in a few days, and it has a ton of content, but where are the custom classes, the extra slots? It took them forever to fix patches for challenges and camos, and even some things are still bugged, and it's kind of annoying to see that because you guys had 3 years to make this game, and it's still taking so long for you to patch these little things when these are things that were working in past Call of Duty games for the past 12 years. So I definitely want to see them fix that for that. And I don't think a lot of the community is patient with this game either, so the faster they do that, the better. Now, moving on to the really good things about this game, which I have a lot to talk about actually, and if we have to start somewhere, it's the look of the game. The game looks beautiful. It looks a bit more washed out than Black Ops 4, for example, but we have to realize that that's a different theme. This game is more on emphasis of modern warfare and realism. Won't look like a Black Ops 4, Black Ops 3 clone. It's gonna look a bit more rustic and washed out. Now, moving on to the sound design, the aesthetics of the game. Every weapon sounds and behaves like it would in real life. They sound very good, and they're very satisfying to use. Even when you get the kills, like the hit marker sounds satisfying. The count when you get the kills, the little ting, the ping, or whatever you want to call it. The game sounds and rewards you for getting the kills, and it's addicting, to be honest with you, because of how good it's crafted, how well it's crafted, which makes me wonder, did they spend all their time developing just the sound of the game and nothing else? Piggybacking off of that, there are a ton of guns to be played in this game, in this build of the multiplayer. I don't know the exact numbers as to how many guns there are, but there's multiple variations within each gun. I think I found out how to make the Mac 11, or no, sorry, I think I found out how to make the TMP using the MP7, and honestly it's just like a clone of the TMP. And I really do like the way that the gunsmith system works, which makes me want to piggyback off of that. The gunsmith in this game is a joy because there's such an endless possibility, and I already know that with more updates they're going to add more different cosmetics, which you might have to buy some of them, but they're going to give you like different variations and looks of parts to make the gun look just like the way you want it to. It'll be your kind of gun, it won't be somebody else's. It'll be specific to you and how you want to design it, which is pretty big. You know, I give hats off to Infinity Ward for coming up with such a good intricate system for building the weapons. I really do like it. I do think that too many things affect ADS speed, which is kind of annoying, and it again wants to encourage the whole camping playstyle. But for what it is, I give the gunsmith a solid 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's a pretty good customization system. Does need a bit of a tweak, but nothing too crazy. Now moving on to the game modes, there's quite a bit of game modes. At launch, if you asked me this, I would have said there's literally nothing to play because there's only a handful of game modes. But after a month of this game being out, there is all sorts of games to play. Hardcore, core, gun game, gunfight, tournament mode, which I really like, by the way. We actually won our first tournament on our first game yesterday. And also, there's games like Shootouts 24/7, which is a ode to the players who want to play fast-paced 3-lane maps, which is what you'll find me doing every day because I won't ever play the other maps again. Game modes are plentiful, and it's nice to see that the developers are listening at least and fixing the game instead of leaving it like a steaming hot pile of dog shit. That's something that developers tend to do, and I'm really glad that this game isn't one of them. So they're trying to meet a middle ground, and I can respect that, but there are still some things that I believe should be changed regardless, because if 90% of the community is bitching about skill-based matchmaking, I think it's time to get rid of it, but that's just my opinion. There's just so much to talk about the multiplayer, and all in all, at a 1 out of 10 scale, the multiplayer experience in Modern Warfare is a solid 7 out of 10, with lows reaching down all the way to a 0, all the way up to a 10. But average, 7 out of 10. So if we move on from the multiplayer over to the Spec Ops, I just have to tell you, don't play Spec Ops because that shit is dog shit. Spec Ops is trash. Spec Ops is broken. Spec Ops took the hard crank, took it from a 1 to an 11, and broke it off. Don't play it. I honestly can't stand that mode, and it's probably one of the things that they should just scrap altogether and just not be in the game. But that is all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.